Good morning and happy Monday. I hope you're all had a good weekend. Let's see. Hello, Esitsu. Good morning. Oh, that's on the wrong screen. We are down here. Yes. Okay. I think everything is set up correctly now. How you doing, Esitsu? Hope you had a good weekend. And having a good Monday so far. I'm looking forward to recording some of these videos. So we're going to be focusing on probably setting up Udex first, and then using Udex to store form data, and then um, Udux functional. So setting up Udux, I think we decided we're going to do the counter example, and so I have everything set up. Lazy weekend, so many plans to write some code, and not a single line written. I totally get that. I've been there many times. What I've started doing to sort of help myself like stay focused on like and do what I want to do on the weekends. Um, specifically this on Saturday. I usually do a long bike ride out to a cafe or something. And then I just hang out there for like, several hours, take my computer, and just there's no distractions anymore. Like I don't have all my stuff at home, don't have like anything else to do, no chores that I can do because I'm out. And then at the end of the day, or when my battery runs out in the computer, ride back. And so far, it's been working out really well. Plus, I get to reward myself with like I'll pick up some food from a restaurant on the way home, which is always nice. All right, so for this, let's do let's go and okay. So I don't need the stores. So we're gonna delete you. Actually, we're probably going to reset um sib Udex, right? So I guess I want a very basic thing. So we don't need display count. I don't need the increment. I'll need library. Oh, right. Yes, I forgot. This is going to be a struct style. Um, okay. Messages, properties, create. Okay. And increment count and display count goes there. And cargo.toml, let's take Yewdux out of here. And we'll just start with these. Okay. Think we're good to go there. All right, so localhost 8080. Localhost 8080. Thank you. All right. Apparently, I had a cache the previous server what I was working on this weekend, which was a little bit of the platform site, which was strange that Firefox would cache it quite like that. Um, I did I did quit Firefox between then and now. Did I? I closed all the windows, but I didn't quit the application. So maybe that's why it cached that so much. But okay, so we have just our plain app here. I'll probably need this. I'll need console up. Besides that, I do need my Stream Deck disconnected from OBS because of the update, and I haven't actually fixed it yet. So I need to, where are we? If I'm in main, oh, we have start course, course record, end course. Okay, got it. I'm actually not convinced I need that much more. I could probably just record the videos and then add in the sort of like the beginning, sort of like whatever it is, the this thing. I can add that thing afterwards and then upload them. Okay, so that's probably what I'll do. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna stop recording. You use the correct keyboard when I delete those. Okay. And I need a button on my keyboard to start recording. Hotkeys. Okay, so start recording and stop recording is Control F11. Okay. So then I will move. Okay, so I will move you over to this side. So that we have the full screen to do all of our things. And you're up here like this. No, don't terminate. This will be fine. Okay. I guess the other thing is README. We want to install Yewdux, create the counter store with the default value, display the counter, and create a button to increment the count. Okay, that makes sense to me. Let's see if I can get this going. First try. It's been a while since I've recorded any of these. Sometimes it takes me a couple times before I actually get it right. So, here we go with Control F11, I think. So, no music on. Also, just sort of like heads up, when I am doing recordings like this, I don't. I generally don't have. What is it called? I don't respond to comments. Um, while I'm doing the recording, I will read them usually. And if it's something like to help me out or to like have me respond to that, sort of like not, I guess like have me change the flow, I will do that there. Sort of like I'll try to figure out how to fit it in. Otherwise, I'll respond after we're done. So this should be not too terribly long. I'm expecting like 5, 10, 15 minutes or so. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, you know what? This needs to be full screen too. That. Why are you there? Okay, hold on. One more problem. Because it's not really a problem. I want the chat window gone. There we go. That's better. Okay, so now let's try this. All right, so Control F11 and oh no, I need a transition. Uh, let's, yeah, starting here is fine. All right, let's do this. Having a centralized store in our web applications can be a really nice thing. Up until now, we've been having all of our state stored in, well, basically in the components that we're working with. But what if we have multiple components that each need to share data back and forth? Or you want to have components that maybe just display data that another component sets, or you just want to refresh components whenever data does refresh. A centralized store can help out with that. Now, if we're coming from JavaScript land, where we have React, Redux for the longest time was the centralized store to use. And there's a bunch more to choose from in that area. But here in Rust and Vue land, we also have plenty of choices. Now, the one that I'm choosing for this course and the one that I'm using personally is called Udex, which should be easy to remember because it's a play on Redux. But so far, I've been enjoying it quite a bit. So we're going to be using that to set up a centralized store. Now, there's two ways to do stuff, which is first struct-based components with setting up, and then functional-based. We'll be going over the functional-based in another lesson. For this one, let's go ahead and set up Udox. So to begin with, let's head on over to Crates and find Yewdux. Here we go. We have Yewdux. This pretty much shows everything we need to do to get everything working here. We're going to go ahead and bring in Udex 082. So let's head into our cargo.toml, add in Udex, let Rust Analyzer do its thing. Now, to this is as much as we need to install Udex. So we'll mark that as completed. Next thing, create a counter store with a default value. So we're going to create just a very simple counter application, something that displays a number and you press a button and that number increments upwards. To do that, we need to create a centralized store first. Now, Udex and many other centralized stores across all of the different front-end frameworks are now recommending that we have multiple stores, one for each different type of data that we're going to have. So because of that, I recommend that we create a stores folder. I'm going to, in here, we're going to mod stores. And let's create a counter store.rs. And this is where we're going to put the store for it. Now, in this app, we're only going to have one, but I wanted to show off that this is how we can have multiple stores and use them. The reason why we want to have multiple stores is because if we change anything in one store, anything that's sort of subscribed to that store is going to refresh its view. And you don't necessarily want the entire app to refresh if something happens, just a little part of it. All right, so to create our store, it's pretty much as simple as creating a struct for things. So I'm going to call this a counter store. Pub struct counter store. And let's put in a account. We do want that to be public so we can get access to it. And this is going to be a U32. Okay, now we do need to derive a few things. And then first of all, before we even do that, let's bring in use Udex prelude. All right, so we can now derive, store. That's going to be the big one. Now this yells at us and it tells us everything we need to do to make the store work. So first of all, it needs default setup. We can either set up default manually if we want count to be anything other than what the default macro would give us. The default macro on numbers gives us 0. And I'm fine with that. We're going to start with default. Also, it's asking for this, well, it's telling us, hey, we can't do this binary operation not equals. Well, that's telling us that we need partial equal. Okay, so this seems to be okay. Let's continue on and see if it yells at us anymore. So this should be enough for us to start with our store. Let's head back over. Well, it's over here. We've created a counter store with a default value. We want to work on a display for this. So I'm going to create a component which we're going to call display count. And this is just going to simply display the count for us. Okay, so we're going to use u prelude star. We're also going to need Yewdux for this. So use Udex prelude star. We're going to use the struct-based style here because we're going to have another lesson for functional. Okay, so we have a pub struct display count. We do need to store. We need to store like the thing that happened, right? Like the actual like the store itself, which we could also get through dispatch. So let's actually just display the dispatch, which is going to be dispatch. We get this from Udex prelude, and then it's asking for the store. So this is the counter store. Import component for display count and implement those missing members. Okay, so type message. This, we absolutely need to set this up as a special enum for us. So we're gonna have a pub enum MSG. I can't call this message because then we're gonna lose this here. Okay, so message, this is going to be maybe like store or state, and it's going to include a store. Oh wait, it's going to include an RC and then the actual counter store. Okay. Our type message is going to be the MSG. Properties. We don't need properties for this component, so we'll just set that to nothing. When we create this component, what do we need to have happen? Well, we need to have this dispatch here. So let's grab that really quickly. Equals dispatch. We need to give it the type that we're getting. So this is the counter store. And we want to do, what is it called? It is subscribe to this. And then this is like the on change thing here. Like what are we expecting to have happen? So we really want to send out the message for this store. But we're going to use the context for this. So it's going to be context. We're going to get a link and then a callback. And then for this function, it's just going to be the MSG store, but we're not going to pass anything in the parentheses. It's looking a little bit strange the way that this looks and works. Basically, what's going to happen is that whenever anything changes, whenever we create this, it's going to send a message immediately. So we're telling it, hey, on subscription, go ahead or when things change, go ahead and send a message with the store in, and it's looking for this. It's going to pass in the RC counter store for us. Okay, so we get the dispatch now. I want to return a self with the dispatch inside. All right, so now it's showing that we're not using this yet, which is not surprising. So in to do, we need to return some HTML. We're going to do this is not going to be the top level, so let's do like an H2. And I probably want more than one thing in here, so let's do like a div. We'll do an H2 inside. And you will be count. And then in here, let's do just a simple div. And then the actual count itself. Well, to get the store, to get the count, we can actually grab it using the get method. So let's do let count equals self.dispatch.get. That gives us an RC counter store. Now, RC stands for reference count. It's a smart pointer, and it dereferences automatically to the thing inside of it. So I can kind of just pretend that I have a counter store already, and let's just get the current count, which is going to give us a U32. I now put that in here, and that should display the count for us. I don't need this context, so I'm going to underscore U. Let's head back to our main library and grab out our display count and display that down here. Okay, so we have our H1 app. Let's say inside, I don't even need this div necessarily because we have one inside of that component. We're going to do a display count. Save U. Oh, it's not. Wrong type of slash. And then everything should be good. Let's go back to here. Oh, and here we have our app and our count is 0. Okay, great. We are on our way. So we're displaying our counter. But of course, it's not really helpful. We need to create a button to increment that count to make it, well, worth anything at all. So that's going to be another component. So let's over here, we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call this increment count. And same exact thing as before. We're going to use uPrelude and use Udex prelude. All right, so pub struct. This is going to be our increment count. We are also going to keep a dispatch here. And this is the counter store. Impl component for increment count. Okay, same exact thing that we need to do with the previous one. So we're going to do a pub enum store. This is an MSG. This has a store, which is a tuple type with the RC counter store. Okay, type message equals MSG. Again, we don't need any properties. When we need to create that dispatch. We're going to subscribe. We'll use the context, link, callback. Did I accidentally pull in? I did not. Okay, great. The function is now going to be the MSG store without the parentheses. And there we go. Okay, we're happy there. And then we're going to return self with a dispatch. Okay, now we're going to want some kind of button. And then when we click the button, we want it to update the store. Now, to have the update functions, we're going to probably need another message here. So button clicked. Let's add that in. So that, okay. So our view, HTML. All right, so we'll start with a div. Maybe we'll do a, I don't know if we need like an H1 or anything else. We'll just do, actually, we could just do this as just a plain button here. So a button. We'll label this increment count. Okay, so on click, what do we need to have happen? So let's do that here. So let on click equals, we need to create a context link, probably just a callback. This callback function, so you take in, we don't actually care what the event is. We're not going to do anything with it. And now this function requires us to return a message, I believe. So let's put in MSG button clicked. Okay. So we have this on click, type annotations needed. Oh, well, it doesn't know what this event is yet, so we need to use it. So we're just going to do on click here. And suddenly it knows that this is a mouse event now. Okay, awesome. So now we have a callback mouse event that we need update now. I like to do that between the create and the views. So we're going to do a function update. Okay, so we're going to take in the message here. So the message is going to be this actual message that happens, or it's going to be like the on change message, as it were. So let's do let's handle that. So we're going to match message, fill the match arms. Okay, so if we get the store, that's an actual store, isn't it? I don't actually really care about this, do I? Because it's gonna hit here, it's gonna update. Well, you know, when this thing changes, so subscribe actually tells us when something changes, we want you to update. I don't. We'll see. We might need something like this. We might need to change that. Let's for right now just ignore it, and we'll do nothing. In fact, if you come in and you change, let's just set you to be false. We don't need to re-render or do anything else. And we'll see how that goes. And this store, we're not using you, so underscore. Now, if the button is clicked, what do we want to happen? We need to take in this dispatch and then do something called a reduce on it. So self.dispatch. We're going to do a reduce, which takes in a closure, and we get the store, which in this case is the RC counter store. Now, if I do this, the counter store isn't allowed to return anything at all. So if I want to change anything, I need to actually return out of here. So it actually shows here, this function takes in a RC with the store and returns an RC store. But it has to be, like, you notice there's no method, there's no mutation, there's no references here. It's a full new one. So it would have to clone the store, or at least create a brand new one. So it would have to be something, like this. We're going to return a counter store count, and you're going to be store.count plus 1. So, see, returning you. What are you yelling about? Oh, and then that's just this reduce that's going. Let's go ahead and show that. We're going to semicolon you. There we go. And we're going to return false. I don't need this to necessarily update this component. This component can just stay static and never update. And that's what this false is doing. All right, let's go ahead and get this running. We've done a lot of code without checking it. So we're going to head back to our main library, pull this in now. So use increment count, and we'll put it right under here. All right, so here's our increment count. When I click it, nothing seems to be happening here. So something is going on. I think that what we need to do is in the other counter store, or no, not counter store, in the display count, we need to know that it's updating, right? And unfortunately, nothing is happening here. So we need to, whenever this thing changes, return true on that update method. So let's bring in update here. I'm going to match on message. We're going to take in the store. I don't necessarily care about this. I'm just going to say, hey, if we get this message, let's return true here. Let's go ahead, come back to here and try it again. And now it works. So we can now click here and increment the count. Now, one last thing before we end. I'm going to come back to the increment count method here, and we're going to show you a slightly different way to do this reduce, because this is nice, but if we just want to mutate this, then this is like a little bit too much. What if we had like 100 things in this counter store and we just want to change one of them? What we can do is, instead of, let's bring this back here, dispatch dot, there's all the reduce stuff, but then there's a reduce mute. I'm going to choose a reduce mute. This gives us the store. And notice now that the store is a mutable reference to counter store. So we're going to do store.count plus equals to 1. Reduce mute, the trait bound. Oh, so here's something interesting. The trait bound counter store clone is not satisfied. So it's actually giving us a clone of it behind the scenes. So it's kind of still following the same rules of that reduce, but now we need to add clone to the display count store. So let's go find this here, and we'll add in clone. Everything seems to be working. Let's head back over to here, and there we go. It's all working. Let's do a really quick review, because this was a bit. So to begin with, we installed Yewdux. We just went over to creates.io. We got the latest version of Udex and we pulled it in. We created a counter store. The counter store is just simply a struct with whatever data we want in it, with the store macro from Udex inside of it. We also did have to add in a default partial equal and clone, because we're using that a reduce mute. We display the counter using a struct component, using where we get the dispatch. The dispatch, we subscribe to it, so we get a message back whenever the counter store updates. We did have to run the update function ourselves to then catch whenever the store updates and then return true. So that way, this component will update for us. And then finally, we created an increment function, or increment component, that whenever we hit a button, it sends a message to itself here. We don't care whenever the store gets updated, so we're turning false whenever this happens. But then when the button gets clicked, we do this reduce mute. We grab our store, we increment the count, and we're still telling this component don't update. The other one does, though. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. All right, that was... I have chat over there. We'll just keep chat over there. I want to name this before I forget. Okay, so that was setting up Udex. That was 25 minutes. Okay, so my initial thought of 15 minutes, yeah, no. I forgot that the struct methods are just so much longer. Okay, so I do have 7 warnings. Let's increment counts. Unused variable context. So nice that I could just tell it, hey, just do the thing. Unused variable dispatch. Remove the whole use item. Yep, go ahead and do that. Oh, where is this from? Oh, this is from Udex functional. I don't care about that. Udex functional. Yeah, okay, we're good to go. That went okay. Thought I was gonna forget update. Well, yeah, I forgot it the first time, but then I realized that it kind of works with the lesson to show like, hey, this is how it doesn't work, and then you go back into it. So either way, I think it will work there, because if I did the update first, I feel that might be more confusing because you don't know why you need the update, and I'm explaining, oh, you need this for this thing, I promise you, and then everything just sort of magically works. I kind of do like to put in like the failure states in the lessons, and then like immediately fix it. But if somebody is following along literally and just doing that, they're probably going to be upset. So, sorry about that. To those people who are not watching this VOD but watching the thing, so they're not gonna hear that either. All right, let's close all of you. Go ahead and save you. And we're done here. Okay, so that was setting up Udex. The next one, using Udex to store form data. So I think, okay, this one's going to be a longer one than that one. Basically, what I want... Is there even a purpose for this lesson anymore? Probably. We have the login. Oh yeah, just sort of like to update and add new things and just more complexity. So it's pretty much exactly the same thing that we were expecting. All right, so basically you are... So funny that this is like now taking in a dispatch when like that everything is different now. Like the Udox changed everything, which is fine. Okay, so I want to see what... Basically, I think this is going to show in the username, password. You hit that, and then in the library, we display... Oh, we're just displaying like the contents of this. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and reset you. Okay, we don't need any of these things. Most of this lesson is mostly going to be about practice and continual practice and like just doing it over and over again multiple times. Okay, so store. I don't need this at all. We can just do this style. Properties, we don't need. Huh. Yeah, I don't need this at all either. Create, create, we are going to want the context. Actually, no, not here. We don't want the context here. This is just going to be just return self like this. The view, we also didn't need these things. We're just going to start with the app like that. Okay, login. Don't need you. I don't need a router at all. And let's go ahead and remove the store. Okay. So we're starting with just these two things again. Cargo.toml. Let's pull out Yewdux. Don't need you router. We do need WebSys. Wasm-bindgen. Do we need that? I think we need Wasm-bindgen and WebSys. Just having glue is nice if I need it. Stylist. I'm not gonna style anything. Okay. But ooh, and there was that thing we were using that I totally forgot what it was. I think that was under Udux functional. That one I need to remember. So the login form. This thing. This is the like, okay, how do we grab this out? I'm actually just putting that as a sticky over in the side. Just to remind myself what this is. So you'll just stay up there on my other monitor. I don't really think I need anything else as part of this login form, because we're just going to do this to grab it out. We have everything we need. And we had previous lessons for grabbing stuff from like a form. So I think we're good here. All right, so using Udex to store that. Okay, so source live main. Okay, so I think we're good to go here. And yeah, you're all looking okay. Let's go ahead and get this set up. Okay, and we have our plain and basic app there. Don't need your problems showing up. All right. I think we're good to go here. So let's start the next recording. All right, same deal as before. I'll not be checking chat while I'm doing the recording for this. If you have anything, like if I'm forgetting something or if I'm going crazy or if I miss something, just send chat in. I read it. I just don't respond to it in a direct manner because, well, it's for the recordings. All right, let's. Oh, you know what? Before you do that, I like having the README here. Let's set that up really quickly. Okay, so this is using Yewdux to store form data. Okay, so what's the first thing? We want to install Udex. We want to create the store. After we've created the store, we want to create the form and save to the store. So create form. Add form data to store when updated, when changed, maybe. And then display form data. I think those are the things that we need. Okay, let's do this. Here we go. Okay, that was weird. I did Control F11 and I had another window up and it full screened that, which is not what I wanted to do. So hold on, you stop doing that. Back to you. Okay, let's delete that one. Okay, let's try this again. And here we go. Now that we have set up Udox, let's go ahead and repeat that again to get some practice in. But this time we're going to store form data to our centralized store. It's important to practice actual form data because it's just slightly more complicated to extract the data out of each of those form elements and then get them in that store. Doing that and just repeating practice will help us be able to just work really fast when we have real applications that we're working on. Let's go ahead and create a login form. So just something that takes in a username and password and then stores those two things into our centralized store. All right, we'll start with installing Yewdux as before. Now I have my extension up, which tells me it's the crates extension. So I can go straight to cargo.toml and we're going to put in Udex and pull in the latest version. All right, we'll let Rest Analyzer reset for this, and that should give me Udex. Now, creating the store. So this is going to be an auth store. So let's go ahead and in our source, create a new folder, and I'm going to call this stores. Going to have our mod stores. Okay, that should make you happier. There we go. Oh, wait, maybe. There we go. Okay, so inside of here, we're going to want a, we're going to call this an auth store. Mod auth store. And we're going to first start with that importing everything from Udex. So Udex prelude star, and let's go ahead and set up well, we don't need to do the derive. I sometimes like to try to do the derives first, but I noticed that Rust Analyzer doesn't necessarily know what to pull in if it doesn't have the context that it's a struct. Let's go ahead and create our auth store here. So pub struct auth store, and we're going to have derive. All right, well, we're going to have a store. We're going to pull in default, partial equal, and clone. And that will allow us to do everything we need to do, including that reduce mute in the future. All right, things that we're going to be storing in here. Well, we want the username, and you're going to be a string. And we're going to also want a password. So that's also going to be a string. Okay. That should be good to go here. Now, default and username and password is going to be, well, it's going to give us like, it's going to always put them in here. We don't necessarily always want them in here. Let's actually make these options. So option string. And the default for an option is going to be none. So that way we can keep the password in the store for as long as we really need it. Then we sort of get rid of it. Maybe we keep the username around, and we could put in a public is authenticated, and that could be a Boolean. Boolean default is going to be false, so that's perfect. Okay. That will be our store that we create here. Now we need to create the form. So let's go ahead and create a auth form. S here. Mod auth form. Okay, so we're still in struct components. So we're going to do a use prelude star, and then use Udex prelude star. I'm now, this time we're building out the thing that saves the data to the Yewdux centralized store first. Okay, so we're going to do a pub struct auth form. We do know that we need to keep in a dispatch here. So our dispatch is going to be a dispatched for the auth store. Impl component for auth form. Okay, type message. Well, we need to have that message that we had before. So we're going to have a pub enum msg. You're going to have a store, which is an RC with an auth store inside. And we're also going to have, so this is the auth form itself. So there's going to be two things here, right? We're going to have the username, the password, and then when we submit and attempt to log in. So username updated. So username. Now, do I care about anything else that's happening here? Well, I probably do. So let's do username is a string. We'll do a password, and we're going to pass that in with a string, and then is authentic, or maybe like login, which is just an event like that. Okay, so message, you are that MSG. Properties, we don't need you. Okay, create. Well, we first need to create that dispatch. So that dispatch equals dispatch. This is going to be the auth store. We're going to subscribe to the context link callback MSG store. And then we're going to turn self with the dispatch inside of it. All right. And then let's skip the update for right now. Let's see if we can get everything, like at least something displaying to the screen as quickly as possible. So we're going to start with our HTML. We're going to start, we'll do a div. We can put a label in here. So we'll do a, not an H1 because it's probably not going to be the top thing on the page. So an H2. And this will be our login. So login. All right. So we need to create our form itself. I'm going to create a div for each of these. All right. So we're starting with just a username. So I'm thinking this is going to be a div for the entire username thing. So I'm going to create another div in here. And we're going to do a label. We're going to have 4 equals, and this is going to be an ID for this label. So we're going to call this username. I don't think I need necessarily anything else. And we are going to put in username. We're going to do another div. And this is actually going to be for the input itself. So input type equals, this is probably text. If your usernames are all emails, then that would be an email type here. We do need an ID, which is going to be this username. And we can have a placeholder of username as well. Okay. And that's the first form element. Let's duplicate this. And the next one is going to be for password. We do want to make sure that we change the type to type password. And then the final thing is another div. And we're going to put in a button here. So a button. And I just realized that I made a mistake. This div should really be a form. So that way it actually knows that this is all part of a single form here. So we're gonna convert that div into a form here. Button, and we're gonna have maybe login. Okay, that was a lot of typing. I don't need this context. Here, let's go ahead and, well, I'll leave these warnings for right now. We'll be using them shortly. Let's head back to our main library and we'll pull this in. So use Auth Form, and let's put this right underneath the H1 here. And head back over here. Okay, great. We have our app, we have login, we have our username and password. If I put in something here, it's like Brooks234 and hit login, everything just sort of refreshes. That's because when we hit the login button, it's attempting to do this in the browser and not letting us handle it in code. Okay, but first part is working here. So we now need to extract out, well, first of all, whenever we hit the login button, we need to stop that from refreshing. Okay, so stop it from refreshing. Well, that's easy enough. In our auth form, I need to create a on submit event handler. We're going to take in the event and we're going to cancel. We're just going to cancel, and then we're going to send the message login. So let's do let on submit equals, okay, so we do need this context. CTX link callback. I need this event. We're going to need to set up what that event is, but Rest Analyzer is going to help us out a little bit. So the first thing we're going to want to do here is say event.prevent. Well, actually, you're not really going to help me until I get the type set up. So let's do that really quickly. On submit. Now we know that this is a focus event. So let's go ahead and set that. You're a focus event. And now because of that, I can do event.prevent default. And you know exactly what that's supposed to do, or at least the browser does. Now it wants, at the end of this callback, it needs to have a message of what it's returning. So, well, on submit, we know we're going to be returning MSG login. This should really be a capital L. And there we go. Okay, so that, we come back to here whenever I hit this. Now, whenever I click the button, it doesn't cause the entire page to refresh. Okay, that's great, but we're not doing anything with username and password. My preference is usually as we change and fill out the form, we take that data and we put it into the centralized store. So we don't wait until the button is clicked. We start doing that ahead of time. And that, if we do have any kind of validation that we're running, we can do that at the time. So we could basically say like, oh, look, password changed. Let's go ahead and make sure the password matches whatever we feel it needs to match. Like it's not empty, or it's like, a minimum of X characters, or it has something else. We can do any kind of logic inside of there if we want to. Okay, so let's go ahead and set that up next. So we're going to send up username, and then we'll send up the password. So this is going to be username on change equals context link callback. We're going to have the event here. And we do care about this event. Let's go ahead and on the input, we're going to put our on change equals username on change, which tells us that you are now dot callback, please. Okay, there it goes. Now it sees, hey, this is just plain event. So let's give it that type here. And all right, so we need to extract out the string that's stored inside of this this input, which means we need to convert. We need to get the target and then convert it into the type that we expect. So we can do that. So let's do let target equals. We can do this using our WebSys and our WebSys. Specifically with this feature is HTML input element. That's what's going to get us the target here. So this is going to be event dot. We're going to do target unchecked into. We need this to be an HTML input element. And then if we just do that on its own, that should now give us exactly what we're looking for. And we can now get the value out of that. So we can now say, I want this to be username equals target.value. That is a function. And then we can now return MSG username and pass in the username. All right, so it doesn't yell at us. It should work. Let's go ahead and repeat this again for password. Okay, so we get our unchecked info. It's an HTML input element. Even though the type is different, it's still an HTML input element. We're getting our password here and password here. Okay, and on this, we're going to say on change equals password on change. Okay, now we haven't actually stored this into the store yet. We're just sending messages to our own component here. So we now need to update that. So function update will match our SG. Okay, so first of all, when the store updates, do we care what happens? For this form, not really. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that false. We don't want to refresh at this time. Now, when the username updates, we're going to take username. And I definitely do. So I want to do a self.dispatch. No, not destroy. Self.dispatch. We want to, let's do the reduce mute. We're going to get the store, and I'm going to say store.username equals username. This, I do also need to return a false out of here. So I'm going to do this in a multi-line. And we're going to set you to be false. I don't really need to update this, this method itself. Now it's yelling at me because store.username is an option and this is a string. So we actually need to set this as a sum. Okay. When password logs in here. Okay, so in password, let's we'll take in our password, which is the string. We're going to do exactly the same thing. So we're going to do a self.dispatch. We're going to reduce mute. We're going to have the store. And we're going to say store.password equals some password. And we're also going to return a false here. We don't care about refreshing at this point in time. Now, login. So this is where we potentially could put any kind of form validation in here. Like when we attempt to log in, we really want to, we don't want to set that like is authenticated to be true unless we have both a password and a username set. Let's go ahead and double check that. To find out if we have them set, we can do our dispatch. We can also do the get to get the store, sort of like to check them. Let's just do this in a straight dispatch here. So we'll do a self.dispatch. We'll do a reduce mute. This is going to be our store. And I only want to change this if both of them. So let's do, we'll do store.is authenticated equals to, I just want store.password is some and store.username is some. Okay, if they're both set, then this becomes true. Okay, well that makes me happy about this. And then we're going to return false. I don't need this component to ever really update. And I don't need this context. All right, is there any other warnings? I accidentally brought in glue timers callback. I don't need that. This password string. Well, why aren't you being used? So this one, username, try password, some password. If I'm not using you, that's a problem. So this password on change is because I'm sending in username. Well, that's a problem. Let's change that to password. All right. And that's why it's a good idea to look at your warnings just to make sure that you're not doing something silly like passing in a username as a password or password as the username. Okay, so I can now fill out everything in here. So we have our username and we have our password. And as soon as I click away, that fires the onChange event, which should store it in the store. And if I hit login, that should now flip that bit, but we need to display that. So let's go ahead and create a display auth. And this is just going to display the contents of the form and the contents of that store so we can know that things are doing what we expect them to do. Okay, so I'm going to do mod display auth. All right, so use uPrelude and use Yewdux prelude. Pub struct, this is display auth. We know we're going to want the dispatch, which is a dispatch with an auth store. Impl component for display auth. Impl component for display auth. There he goes. Impl those default members. Okay, we also need that pub enum msg. We need the store, and this is the only real change that we need in here. And you're going to be an RC with a auth store. Okay, message. You are MSG. Properties, don't need you. Okay, so create. Let dispatch equals dispatch. Our auth store. We want to subscribe. We're going to use the context link callback. I keep on doing call. I want call back. And then inside of here, MSG store. And then we can do our self dispatch. All right. We can do our update right now. We know exactly what we need to do for this. So on update, we want to match MSG. There's only one thing here. I still do like to do the matches for this. Just in case I add new things. I feel like I like looking at the match in this update function as it were. Okay, so now this is telling me that I don't actually need these parentheses. Let's get rid of you. Okay. Then next up, we need to in the view. So we're gonna want to grab out well, I guess like we need the store, don't we? So we need the auth store is going to be equal to self.dispatch.get, which gets us the auth store, and then we can grab things out of there as we want to. All right, so HTML. Let's put in a div. And we're going to throw in an h2. And let's just title this as maybe like auth store. Like we want just the contents of it. All right, div. Inside of here, what do we have? Well, we're going to have the username. Let's actually do this up here. We'll do username. It's going to equal to, I just want to format this. And you're going to be username colon, and I want authstore dot username. Now, interestingly, because this is an option, I want, let's go ahead and debug. I think that will be, actually, you know what? We're going to do this. Unwrap our default. So If it's a none, it'll become an empty string. Otherwise, it'll be the actual string itself. Okay, so that's username, password equals another format, password, so auth store dot password unwrap or default. And then finally is authenticated. I'm just going to extract this out. So we'll just do auth store. Actually, you know what? I still want to do the format. I want to have a label for it. So auth store is authenticated. Now that's a Boolean, so I'm going to debug view you. Okay, so now we're going to put in a username. We'll do another div with password. And finally, another div with is authenticated. Okay, what are you yelling about? Cannot move out of the RC. So I don't want that. Options itself doesn't have the copy. I think I can use the as ref, or I could do as dref too, I believe. That might work. Do I do it there? I think so, yes. Let's do the same thing here. As dref. Okay, and I don't need this context. All right, so we have our display auth. Let's head back over here and use that. Display auth, display auth. And let's head over here and see. Okay, so we have our auth store. Username, password is authenticated false. So if I put something in to our username and I click away, there we go. Our username gets set in the store. We don't have anything in password yet. So I put in the best password ever. Now we notice that is authenticated is still false. I hit login and it flips over to true. And so now we have authentication. We can now check is authenticated inside the store. If ever we want to like make sure we can display something to somebody who is authenticated or not, we can now know that. So let's do a really quick summary here, because I know this was a little bit long. We have created our store. It's exactly like the store we did, the counter store we did. It just, in this case, holds options and strings. So instead of just a number. So whatever type we want to put in here, we can just put that in here. For the form itself, we use the good old message pathing method for struct components to send the username to our callback. And then in update, we catch that username and then use the reduce mute on the dispatch to then update the store. In login, we're not catching any data, but we're checking the contents of the store to make sure like, hey, is everything exactly the way we want it to be before we then update that. And then finally, we display the contents of the store out and so that we can see what's going on. Display auth, obviously, we would not put that in there for the real application, but this is a great way for us to sort of display what's going on in our stores if necessary. And there we have it. We now have, I can mark all of these as done. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. All right. Now my alarm is yelling at me because it is, it's 8:20 now. Oh, it just stopped yelling at me. Yeah, I have it go off at 8:15 because I have work starting relatively soon, so I need to go get ready for that. But let's go ahead and save off all of these things, and I'm done with you. let's see, I have 2 warnings left, but that's only in functional, so that's fine. So we're gonna put in, oh, I did this all in Udex Plus. Oh, fun. I will probably have to, I'll just merge this in with the main branch later. That will make it work. Okay, so this is Yewdux, Udex, and Udex with forms. And I'll push that up. And oh, I can't forget, I want to update. How do I? I'll just use the mouse. This is Udox with forms. All right. And I'll save that. It's the introduction to you. Recorded videos. Okay. Save that away so I can later go and find it. So there we go. Finally got it to stop full screening the finder there. Okay. All right. So, thank you everybody for hanging out today. We were able to get 2 of the videos recorded. Let's see, I'll be back tomorrow morning. I believe we'll then get the functional Udux uploaded. And then I will, if I have time or when I have time, I'll be uploading those videos to the introduction to U tutorial guide course on YouTube. And I think what we're gonna do is I kind of want to just replace them, but at the same time, the project is gonna have the older stuff. I'm gonna have to think about what to do with the project stuff, with the project side of it. Because I don't want to have to redo the entire project. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do a video of me going through after the fact and updating it to new version of Udex, and I'll do that before it, or after. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that. So, anyways, with that, I'll probably keep both the lessons up that way. Yeah. I'll figure it out. All right. Well, anyways, I hope that you all have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll see you all tomorrow for continuing with this. All right. Bye.